something we talked about last week a little bit between me and Shane, is the new Hellraiser movie on Hulu. So we finally both have caught up and had a chance to see it. So we're going to kick things off with our first topic being us talking about what we thought about Hellraiser. So I'm going to go first and just say that I had a lot of fun with it. Like, I don't think it was, anything groundbreaking or brand new or just that blew me away, but I really enjoyed it a lot. I do wish they delved a little bit more into like how drug users, because the whole thing about the Cenobites, right, Shane, is that they want to go further in the human experience, right? And that's almost kind of what drug users want, right? So I kind of thought they could have delved a little bit more into maybe that girl, our main character, wanting to maybe have these further experiences because drugs just wasn't enough for her anymore. But either way, I really enjoyed it. I like the rich guy kind of looking to solve this thing. We first see him again, and he's got the big clock thing right through his chest. My first thoughts were like, this is just kind of weird and silly. And then as it went on, I really thought it was kind of cool and unique. And it started to freak me out a lot. And the idea of it, again, he was just seeking further experience, and he got it, that's for sure. And it was very scary. And that, I think, truly honored the feel of the original Hellraiser, that really body horror, that you can kind of feel it when it's happening, as that you see, you see those shots of the inside of his body, and it's like spinning, and you can see it when it's like twisting up his intestines, and you just feel it. And I think that when I was a kid, when I first watched the original Hellraiser, that's what I think really separated it from everything else that I watched at the time, like Freddy and Jason and all of that. And so I think they really got back to a lot of that and honored that stuff pretty well. And I liked that. I really did. It wasn't quite as scary as I wanted it to be. And I would like to have some sort of, I guess this is me being caught up in the world we live in, but I would like to have some sort of backstory on what happened to our Pinhead. Where's Pinhead? Is this new Pinhead like his daughter, or are they related? Or is this like an alternate reality where this is always been this world's Pinhead? I don't know why. I guess because, Shane, something me and you talked about last week is that, the character of Pinhead became what was iconic about the movie, right? And we just wanted to know so much more about the character. And then all those movies that came after, 2 or 3, they all became about the Cenobites and specifically Pinhead. And I think it's because, again, it's a really interesting character, so you want to know more about him. And now that he's gone, I don't know, I just want to know why and where, I guess. It's silly, but that's just kind of how I felt. The girl... Pinhead, I liked it. It didn't bother me. I enjoyed it. All the other Cenobites were great. I loved that there was the thing where she stabbed a Cenobite with the box, but that didn't change. The rules aren't different for them, and the Cenobite just stepped back and knew that it was about to have to deal with the experience. I thought that was great. I really loved that. I love how the Cenobites, are like that they're kind of, it was that thing we were talking about yesterday again, right? About, not being evil, but just having a mission or whatever. And in a way, that's them, we're not against it either. If we get hit by the box, then we get taken too. So it's just part of it. And I thought that was really cool. And I loved the design of most of the Cenobites. They looked really good. I missed that one from like 3 that has like his mouth all tied out and stuff. That was always creepy. And it was always like trying to move, but it really couldn't because it was like stuck in a wire. But yeah, it was a really, overall, I would say I definitely enjoyed myself. I did kind of, because at first when I went into it, it was still sitting at like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I kind of expected something a little bit like what Prey did to me. Like I was telling you with it, Shane, it really just came out of nowhere. and it was just like I went into it expecting nothing. And then it was like, whoa, oh my God, this is like maybe one of the best movies I've seen this year. And so with all the rave reviews, I'm going into it thinking, oh, this is going to be good. And it's not that it wasn't good. It's just I don't think personally that it's 90% on Rotten Tomatoes good. But I enjoyed it overall. Shane, you had a chance to finally check out Hellraiser. What are your thoughts on it, buddy?
I did. I just watched it last night. I thought it was really good, almost great even. It did have its flaws. I think what it was possibly missing was an exclamation mark to the film itself. I mean, when I think back about the end of it, spoilers, everyone. It's just like it almost just wraps up too nicely. And, you also talked about the drug addiction, which, they start off the film that way. And you really think that's going to be the main thing. And then it becomes about her brother. So now the stakes are about her brother. And we really drop the drug addiction. There's a point in the movie where it's just like, well, she's clean now.
Right.
And, that is very, not believable.
Yep.
Because, you'd start, getting these temptations immediately. And, I think they could have played with that. In fact, I think it would have been cool to have this exclamation mark ending to where she decides to trade in for her brother, writes the whole thing. And instead, in that moment, wants, like the junkie, the next hit. And that could have been the thing where she even at the end sacrificing her brother.
Really
I think that would have been what you would have walked away and been like, yeah,
this was a really cool movie.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But besides the fact that it's tied up too nicely, it was great just to sit down and watch. It was very cool to kind of start from the beginning again. It didn't retcon anything. It was just more of a new beginning. And you have the mystery of the box. And I think that was the whole biggest plot point. And I love how they found the journal and you get into the different formations. And, it was this mystery that's being unwrapped. Yep. And that to me was what was great about the movie. And then you get to the house and you have, all these weird, just guarding, metal guarding the building.
Oh,
and you're just like, what's going on? And this is weird. And then it makes sense as you unravel the mystery. It's like, oh, well, I see why.
Right. Yeah, I said it right when it started happening. I told Alicia, she was like, oh, he built that to keep him out. And I was like, I don't know. I'm thinking this is like a cage, is what it looks like. And
there
sure
you go.
Enough, it definitely ended up being so.
So that was a really nice payoff. So there were some really nice payoffs. It was a very intriguing story. That mystery I loved. It did have some nice shocking elements. I did like that all the Cenobites I think all the Cenobites were women.
I think so.
And I thought that was a great choice because you have these very kind of soft bodies, but you have all this very, rough things that they're doing. So it's this juxtaposition and, and they're also hideous, but at the same time,
women are beautiful, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's an even extra layer to that I really liked that decision. There was a lot of decisions that I liked about it. Really, my only negatives were that it was a little slow in some parts. I don't think it needed to be the full 2 hours. If we could have gotten 15 minutes out of some stuff, I would have been happy with that. I did not like the commercial placements for Hulu. I don't know if you had that problem.
Oh, my God.
There was only two, and they were only 30
were
seconds a piece. But I would have rather have sat through that minute at the beginning, not getting any commercials, or at least planned your commercials better.
Yeah.
They were in the worst spots.
We've been watching more of the Chucky series on Peacock, and it is definitely like the worst place, and it's all over. It's so sporadic. Like, we'll get one, we'll be watching for 2 minutes. We'll get one that's 30 seconds. And then we'll be watching for 5 minutes and we'll get one that's 2 minutes. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it just takes you out of it so much.
It really did.
Especially when you're in a horror.
Yeah. There was a spot right before they were building tension to the woman who had worked with the rich man, Roland, I think was his name. And she was in the hospital, right? And she was in the hospital. And like right before they set her up to die, it goes to commercial. I'm just like, oh, what? No. And so that, again, that's not the movie's fault. So I can't, but Hulu should have, at least had some sort of, way to program the commercials in an acceptable area.
Right.
And, One thing I did like that I want to point out before we can move on is I like that we only had one brief scene and shot of the Cenobites dimension. Yeah. So I'm glad that they didn't have to lean on that too heavily, and it leaves it for the next sequels, right? It gives us a reason to want to venture into the next Hellraiser movie, and my last thing is dealing with Pinhead. I've only seen the first Hellraiser, and Pinhead's like the third villain in the. I mean, he's just not real. He's not the main threat.
Sure.
So to me, it wasn't a big jarring thing of this is a different Pinhead. Right. It could have been in any movie, but I can see as a fan coming along, especially in the horror genre. Right. There was big stinks about how in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 they didn't bring back the original Leatherface, and it's just like you can't even tell, right?
Right.
But fans when they care about
when
that.
They didn't bring back Rob England in the 2010 version,
right? And even though he would have been ancient,
right?
And
Freddy takes so much physical.
And Earl Haley, whatever, excuse me that I botched his name. He was great, Freddy. It was a great casting choice for that. Yeah, Rorschach. So you can't, but fans, of course, they're attached to these characters. So I can't blame you for, I didn't. There wasn't one moment where I was just like, oh, I can't wait to see what Pinhead looks like because I'm such a huge fan. Where I'm sure that was a big thing.
I was
going in for you.
I'm like, dang, when are we gonna see Pinhead? And then I'm like, there she is. Like, it definitely was. I liked it. Like I said, just as a fan of Pinhead, and that's what the series more became about. And even though it's been a while, I've seen probably every Hellraiser movie. So and I was always a big fan of like you said, they didn't go much into it in this movie, but I was always a big fan of the Cenobite world and what's going on there.
I mean, that was featured heavily even in the first movie.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And it's just because it's very similar to what you would kind of imagine like Hell being, only with Hell, we always imagine a lot of heat and fire and stuff, where this is more just dark and scary,
Well, it's kind of what separated Hellraiser apart, because every kind of horror, that kind of slasher killer genre horror movie, whether it's Freddy or Jason, it's always about these mythical creatures encroaching onto our world and as humans surviving. But Hellraiser, the scariest part is when they pull you into their world and you're just like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of here?
Right. And it's, like I said, it's just such a scary place. And it's, you just don't know what to expect when all these things just want pain,
and it's a great twist for anyone who hasn't seen it. I did watch it last night with my wife, and she had never seen any Hellraisers, doesn't know anything about it.
Wow. Well, what'd she think?
She was terrified. She was so engrossed because she doesn't know what's going to come out of the box or why we're going in here.
So the puzzle box, was it her favorite part? Because I feel like that's what should be your favorite part.
Not only that, but she loves puzzles, and now she's just like, they just scared me away from it. She actually hates this movie now because she's like, now every time I pick up a puzzle, I'm afraid that I'm going to be unleashing a Cenobite.
Right.
So, from a person going in fresh, this is a great Hellraiser to go in fresh with, fresh eyes.
For sure. And the only other thing I want to ask Shane about this one is, I do want to bring up real quick while I'm here is, guys, it's sitting now at a 67% on Rotten Tomato critically, which
dropped.
Like we said, Shane, is around, almost 7 out of 10 of the critics like it, 64% on audience. I'll read the critic consensus here. It says, a gift for long-suffering fans after numerous subpar sequels. David Bruckner's Hellraiser unlocks the puzzle box for getting this franchise back on the right track.
Does that sound like a 73 or whatever percent, 67% review?
It's back on the right track?
I think the problem with horror, like with reviews, is, movies aren't created equal. How can we possibly judge, a horror movie like Hellraiser against, something that's drama heavy or anything like that, I think reviews should reflect horror. In terms of, a horror movie coming out today, would you really say this is a 67%?
I mean, if we're talking about it in those terms, then no, this would be higher than that.
Yeah, I agree.
But if we're talking about it compared to, what's probably going to win the Academy Award this year, and then it's probably a 67%.
And something like that's going to scare someone off. It's like, oh, man, I wanted to see it, but it's sitting at 67%. That's almost half the people didn't like it.
Hey, all I'll say about it is that the audience has got it at 64. So it's not just critics.
I know. What are you expecting, people? I enjoy this, and I don't like anything. Right. So
especially
if I like it,
I think what increases its value to me personally, and this is the other thing I wanted to talk about with this, is that it was free on Hulu, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't cost me anything extra to do anything. We threw in some popcorn in the microwave. We sat down on the couch. We queued it up, and there we were watching it, And I think that has a certain appeal about it too, right? Especially again in this October month where we can just throw on a scary movie whenever. It could be daylight, Oftentimes, this is something I haven't mentioned, but oftentimes with me and my wife during the year, we won't watch a scary movie till night, right? Because it's got to be dark and with the setting. But in October, it's all day, all night, right? And so I think that helps. And Shane, the question I wanted to ask you is, let's say this movie did get released in theaters. Now, I think it would have a lot going for it because if we look back, if you guys haven't seen, the past couple of days we've been talking about Smile and its box office. Also last week we talked about Smile because it's topped the box office 2 weeks in a row, right? It's almost at $100 million worldwide. And we've never even heard of this, like you brought up on the show, on Monday, Shane, that this was a guy on YouTube that created a short video, had success. The studio brings him in, they make the movie. We don't know this guy or none of these things. And this thing's sitting at almost $100 million. Shane, my question to you is, if Hellraiser would have came out in theaters, let's keep under the same idea we are that Smile would be there too. Does Hellraiser top the box office?
I still think Smile would top the box office. I think because Hellraiser already is established, so there's probably going to be a lot of people going, oh, another Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And then you also have the people like my wife who is terrified of Hellraiser because of the reputation it carries. It's this torture horror. You're going to see some stuff you probably didn't want to see. Right. And so, it has already this kind of built-in expectation of, oh man, this is beyond scary. This is, for some real horror hounds.
Right.
And where Smile is the unknown. It's like, well, this could be good. This could be the next, Ring or It Follows, which it sounds like it's becoming.
Yeah, but in the world, in the age of, we always talk about around here, in the age of IP, Hellraiser is well known. The only thing I would say that Hellraiser has against it, or going against it for sure, is the fact that, the last 5 or 8 movies that it's had is
exactly
not very good. Yeah. So I think it did have that working against it. So you may be right. I think I agree that Smile probably would have topped the box office, but would it still been worth it to put this in theaters? Because I'm not sure what this cost to make, but it couldn't have been much, right? So if this was a $10 million movie to make, let's say, I mean, this movie probably would have been made
profitable.
40 or 50 million bucks,
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Right. Yeah, I would think so too. So it just, again, makes you wonder, when we get to a place where they have to do both.
I'm really surprised that the Rotten Tomatoes score just dropped so drastically in like a week, right?
Yeah, right.
So, it first came out, it had positive buzz, obviously word of mouth spread, and then all the word of mouth people were like, no, that sucked. So I'm wondering if it's this thing of expectations, where it's like, oh man, Hellraiser, so good, and then they watch it and they're like, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't what my buddy told me it was going to be. So I'm wondering if the word of mouth almost kind of hurt the movie if people came in with thinking it was going to be
and I mentioned that kind of affected me in a way, right? Because again, when I went in to pray, I had just no expectations because there hadn't been no reviews or anything. And then with this, I went in thinking, oh, this is going to be good, you know, because I had seen that it's like in a 90%, you know, and everyone that I trust that had seen it was just raving about it. So I was thinking, man, this is going to be good. And I don't think it wasn't that it was not good, but like you said, maybe my expectations were a little bit higher, and I
hearing all the positive buzz,
for sure. But guys, what about you guys? Have you guys had a chance to check out the new Hellraiser on Hulu? What do you guys think? Do you like it? Is your favorite Hellraiser movie? Let us know down in the comment section what you guys are thinking about Hellraiser.